Have you ever wondered how people get in shape whereas others stay stuck in the exact same position? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you the worst mistake that people make when it comes to losing a bit of fat. And the reason I know it's the worst because it either makes or breaks your progress. I'm a personal trainer who's down just under 8 kilos. And I also tell my clients to avoid this mistake at all costs to help them achieve similar results too. And it all starts with your mindset, but to understand why, let me take you back to Italy. You know when you get served a delicious meal at a restaurant and you paid an arm and a leg for it? You take your first bite and you chew on it, waiting for an explosion of flavor, and it's just grim. I wish I spent my hard-earned money elsewhere, which led to me feeling disappointed. And that's because I had an expectation which wasn't fulfilled, creating a gap between my current reality and what I wished for. The same applies when you've been good for an entire week and you hop on the scales praying for that number to drop, and then you're slapped in the face with a kilogram gain and it didn't even maintain, which leads to you feeling miserable, and then the rest is history. So having an expectation for the scales to be down every single day is just setting you up for failure. And this is one part of the worst mistake. To truly understand why though, we need to look at the difference between weight loss and fat loss. Fat loss comes down to a consistent calorie deficit over time, and it's linear. It looks something like this, but here's the problem. It operates behind the scenes, whereas your scale weight takes the stage. It's the thing you visually see every day. And this is what the scale weight looks like on a graph when you're trying to lose a bit of timber. This is because your weight is influenced by 1,000,001 different things, such as inflammation. Did you have a poo? How many carbs did you eat the day prior? Did you have a takeout and eat more salt than usual? What time did you have your last meal? And the list genuinely goes on. The reason fat loss isn't reflected in the scales immediately because there's 3,500 calories within a pound of fat. Take the assumption you're in a 500 calorie deficit per day. So day 2, an extra 500 calories gone. Day 3, an extra 500 calories gone. Day 4, day 5, day 6, and day 7. So it'll take you a week of being in a consistent 500 calorie deficit to lose a pound of fat, which is equivalent to 450 grams. And that can be very easily masked by a diet drink you buy at Tesco's, because that also weighs 500 grams, as 1 milliliter is equivalent to 1 gram. So 1 liter is also equivalent to 1 kilogram. I'm not telling you this to dishearten you, but you very much could be losing fat. However, it's just not reflecting on the scales yet. You need to be consistent and patient in order to see results. And also, scale weight is just one measure of progress. Like, you have measurements, progress photos, how you feel. There's quite a fair few things to use as benchmarks as well. However, what happens if you've been in a calorie deficit for a prolonged period of time and the scales are just not budging for weeks or perhaps even months? Then what? Well, assuming that is the average, that means you're no longer within a calorie deficit. This is probably due to something called metabolic adaptation, where your body reduces the amount of energy it expends per day because you're literally a smaller human and need less energy to function. And it's a natural evolutionary mechanism to keep you alive. It'd be very inefficient and we wouldn't be here without it. So to continue to see progress, you need to manipulate one of the two variables or even both. You need to increase activity by perhaps doing an extra walk per day or some list cardio at the end of your sessions. That might just be an incline walk or like 15 minutes on a cross trainer at a low intensity to ensure you don't impair your gym performance. Or you can reduce the amount of calories you're consuming by 100 to 300. Then over the course of a few weeks, assuming you consistently hit that target, you should start dropping body fat again. And that right there tells us that the worst fat loss mistake is quitting. The only difference between those who get in shape and those who don't is they just don't quit. Of course, I'm not saying diet down until you're a fucking skeleton or something, but if you have got a fair bit of fluff to lose, this is an incredibly useful reframe to help you get through the difficult times. And if the thought of a calorie deficit is a bit like, fuck this, you can introduce something called a diet break, and you essentially don't be in a calorie deficit for a few days or a week, however long that you need. That doesn't default to you just smashing the takeaway button and eating everything in sight, but it just moves away from the constant focus of being in a calorie deficit day to day. And instead you can focus on health-centric behaviors. Perhaps you want to focus on increasing your performance within the gym, you go for more walks, you eat regular nutritious meals, whatever it might be. And the purpose of the diet break is for you to mentally and physically reset from a calorie deficit, so that once the batteries are recharged, you can push it again for perhaps 4 to 12 weeks, and then you can maybe have another diet break. But there's no point having one if you're going to constantly bastardize yourself for like, I'm just not in a calorie deficit, what is the point? But again, it's not always lose. We have to be considerate of the longer term picture, because if you successfully do it and you have the energy to want to push hard again, you're going to lose more fat long term. Your adherence is going to be better, your sustainability of that deficit is going to be better, and also your quality of life is a thing too, and like your mental health. So that is food for thought. And some common signs to look out for is consistently low energy, poor sleep, irritability, you're constantly in a low mood, you're not really enjoying day to day, you're constantly hungry as well, and your desire to train is just in the toilet too, it might be time to implement one. And again, just remember the purpose of this is to actually reset and have a break. However, you're probably making this other mistake, which is making the whole fat loss process a lot harder than it needs to be. And counterintuitively, I believe that you should be eating more to lose fat, and YouTube is incredibly smart as it will show you a video exactly on how to do it here.